Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Grassroots Racer. It's always great to have drivers on the show who worked hard to follow their dreams in racing, just like tonight's guest. Currently he's racing in the Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge, and he's well on his way to achieving great things. So let's hear about more of his journey so far. Welcome Bayley Hall, and how are you tonight, Bayley?
Hey, good, thanks, Ayrton.
We all start somewhere, so a lot of drivers do start in sprint karting. When did you get into motorsport?
I started, if you really want to go back, I started when I was 2 when I had my model cars, racing them around the kitchen top. But I first hopped into a go-kart when I was 6 years old. Up at Archerfield Speedway, they had a old go-kart track in the car park, and I used to go around there where I couldn't even stand up because the helmet was so heavy. And that's where I really started, and had a few good people around me. Alan Gurr, he used to teach me how to go-kart, and Dad really got me into it. So yeah, pretty much karted all the way from age 6 to about age 12. So yeah, it takes a few years in karting to really get the grips on it. And once you start getting a bit older, then that's when you start looking towards cars.
Yeah, when I was 12 as well, I moved out of sprint karting. So do you have any favourite memories from go-karts?
Go-karting, I used to do all the Queensland championships. So I used to do, I did a few Queensland state rounds. I did the Young Guns down at Lismore when they had it. Just heaps of fun, you know. We used to make so many friends around it, and they'd always keep you busy on a weekend. I mean, some years we would race in 26 weekends a year. So it was pretty awesome that way, just to always be on top of it and always in the kart. Most of the memories are just being in it, just always trying to do your best. And it was always close racing. I used to be around the Jack Doohan, Brock Feeney phase. And it'd be always us four up the front, nose to tail, non-stop. So yeah, awesome times.
Yeah, it would have been awesome times racing with those guys. Would you say that karting is a great place to learn racecraft from when you're younger?
Yeah, I think it really starts you off with the racing lines. That's the best way to get about it, because those karts have to be driven on the edge to be as fast as possible. So we're using a wide entry, apex, and then a wide exit. That's stuff you pretty much learn in karting that you can take anywhere else in any type of motorsport. So karting is one of the best places to start, and at such a young age, you know, we're a lot more fearless when we're younger. So we just go for it, and we just not only have a ball, but also try and make the most of the moment. So yeah, karting is where you'll hear most people start. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from karting is a pretty big step. So what category did you start driving cars in?
As soon as I turned 13, I hopped into a Hyundai Excel, just to get used to a clutch, a gearbox, you know, use a H pattern, and finally got a roof over your head. So that was a big step, you know. 13, you're not even legal to drive on the road for another 3 years, and you're already driving in a full-scaled car. So that's a big step, you know, to understand car control, and then also spatial awareness. Obviously, you're running a much larger car, and now you're going to have to use mirrors. So Hyundai's was one of the best ways for me to understand how to use the brakes with the right foot, and then also how to use a clutch. It's the best way to get started in a cheap running car, and learn the most as you can while you're getting through it.
Yeah, and XLs have been very popular and have been known to be an affordable category. Do you remember your first test in an XL, and how did it feel?
Yeah, it was crazy. I think I finally turned 14, and I was going 200 k's an hour down the back straight of from Queensland Raceway, and then you got to just slam on the brakes at the 100-meter board. It's like super hard racing, those cars. Everyone's so equal that you just got to be on top of it when you can. So yeah, it was pretty crazy just to hop in that and go straight away. I think I remember my first qualifying, I was in the mid 20s at the back, And in my first race, I made like 13 positions. And that was just from a bit of car control, a bit of experience from a few test days to understand what the car's doing and then just to push on.
Do you like driving in the wet?
Yeah, honestly, I don't mind it. I enjoy it quite a lot. I've had a few races in the wet where you just got to muscle the front end, and had a bit of success in the wet, and it's really fun actually. I recently posted I had a test day in the Porsche in the wet, and had a bit of car control, but turn left to go right action going on. And yeah, it's awesome to test your car control in wet conditions. So that's why I enjoy it.
Yeah, racing in Phillip Island, you definitely learn about the wet weather.
Yep, unfortunately that's the bad side of the wet. When cars around you can't control themselves in the wet. So yeah, I'll brush that one off my shoulders and go again.
So what did you race after XLs and how did it all come about?
We actually bought our XL off a guy that was running in what's called Queensland Touring Car Championship. So we talked to him and we said we're ready to move up from XLs, and we bought a ex-street registered Holden VE Commodore, and that had we put a LS3 in it. So we went straight from an XL front wheel drive 90 horsepower to a rear wheel drive almost 2-ton car it felt, with 650 horsepower at the wheels. So it was a big step, and then I ran in the Queensland Touring Car Championship. So that was definitely more of supercar style car. Obviously a lot heavier and quite a bit slower on the gearbox and brakes and rather, but it was an awesome step up to starting to get car control and in a car I was hoping to drive, as I've always been wanting to be a supercars driver when I was young. So hopping into that was definitely a big step.
And explain what the Queensland Touring Car Championship is to some people who don't know, like myself. I had to do a bit of research. And what other cars do you normally find people driving?
Yeah, so that category is a lot of bring what you brung sort of thing. So there's actually some really quick BMWs in there. They've got super high horsepower, super high boost, and they go pretty quick. But majority of the cars are old street registered Commodores. There's quite a lot of Commodores in it. There's actually a VK Commodore with like 1,000 horsepower. It's insane to drive, and you end up just chasing the car quite a lot. Obviously, these are put together by my dad and I. So I was learning quite a lot as a young driver on the mechanic side, and you're always chasing the car with rear diffs blowing up and gearbox seals and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a cool category to start learning cars, start learning high paced racing, and it's a lot of sedans that come together and do pretty quick lap times.
You mentioned to me earlier that you did endurance racing in that car. So would you have more than one driver?
No, so not in that car. So I've done, after I went from Queensland Touring Cars, I got a test in what's called a Mark car. So these Mark cars, they've got a 5-litre V8 Coyote, and they're paddle shift, and they're built like a supercar space frame. So I got a test in one of them, and we were doing 1 hour races in that, which is just a single driver. And then once I did 6 months in that, I got an opportunity for Mark cars in 2020 to race the Bathurst 12 hour in what's called a Mark II car, which is actually almost a Mustang body, but it's got a 5.2 litre V8 Coyote, left-hand drive, paddle shift. It's almost a GT3 car.
And you said you did the Bathurst 12 hour. How did you go in that, and what was it like driving on an iconic Australian track for the first time?
Bathurst is amazing. It's definitely one of the best tracks I've ever driven. It just tests you as a driver, just more than any other place I know. So yeah, it was awesome. We actually were on the podium at the end of the race, which was insane. For me, I was 16 at that stage, so I was very happy with our effort. I had Warren Loft in my team, and he was one of our co-drivers. So he was teaching me all the way through the weekend on what to improve on. And I couldn't have thanked the guys in my cars anymore, because it was just an awesome experience. I drove for 3 hours out of the race, and it's awesome. You're driving around Lamborghinis and Bentleys, and these guys are going flat out. I'm going flat out, and definitely one of the coolest weekends I've ever done.
And you said you had Warren Loft as a co-driver. He doesn't seem too much of a co-driver, but what did you really take from Warren? Like, what did you really see in him that really helped you out?
Yeah, so Luffy's known me since I was very young karting, and what he did for me on the weekend is just build my confidence as a young driver. Obviously, it's an expensive sport, so I came into that weekend knowing that I have to do my job right, but also keep the car clean at the end of the weekend. And he just built my confidence up throughout the weekend, taught me a few things on how to use the aero of the car, how to maximize the braking, and maximize the acceleration out of the corners. So that's some of the just key points that it only takes a few 1%ers to get right. And it can really help you on track. So yeah, Luffy's got years of experience around that place. So I was very happy to listen and sponge up all the information that he had for me.
And Bathurst is very well known for drivers making mistakes and going to the wall. Did you have any mess ups, or were you pretty clean the whole weekend?
No, I told myself I was going to have 0 and very clean the whole weekend. I got down to one of my fastest times, was in the 2 minute and 7 range, which is only a few split seconds off a supercar. So yeah, I was very happy with that, and definitely didn't even drop a wheel the whole weekend.
That's very good, mate. That's the consistency you need for a Bathurst 12-hour.
Yeah, 100%.
So now that you raced the Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge, who do you race for?
So I raced for McElroy Racing. Andy McElroy, he gave me a test last year, an evaluation at the end of last year, and he took me on for this drive and for the future beyond. Obviously, I've announced that I'm going to Porsche Painter Dixon Carrera Cup in 2022. So that's an awesome experience for me. I'm still a Michelin junior driver since I'm younger than 25, only age 18 at the moment. So that's a huge experience for me doing Sprint Challenge this year, and then pushing forward to Carrera Cup, which is a big step up, but I'm ready for it.
So for people who don't know, would you almost say that the Michelin Sprint Challenge is sort of like F2?
Yeah, essentially, it's a feeder category for young kids to try and get their experience before they go on the main stage, which is Carrera Cup.
And what tracks does the category race at, and what has been your favourite track so far?
Unfortunately, thanks to COVID, we've only had 2 rounds so far this year. So my first round was at Phillip Island, and my second round was at Sydney Motorsport Park. So we were planned to do a few extra races, and we would have been going to Bathurst, we would have been going to Sandown, but all we've got confirmed for the rest of the year is Tail and Bend in December. So that's in Adelaide. Some prestige tracks that not a lot of people get to go to. It's pretty much a national championship, which is cool. So Phillip Island, that's probably my favourite of the year so far. That was heaps of fun. I got second in qualifying for my first ever qualifying by about a tenth and a half of a second, which is absolutely nothing. You could blink your eyes slower than that. Phillip Island, it was insane. That was a really cool track, especially for those cars.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to race there in my supercar, and I love Phillip Island, whether it was wet or dry. It was just such a great track. Now, sponsors are a big part of motorsport, so is there any you'd like to thank that support you?
Yeah, so throughout 2021, I've had CB Gorman as my main sponsor. Now, they're a company that actually creates masks. So that's a perfect time of the market for them during COVID-19, and they're keeping us all safe. I've been running CB Gorman masks throughout the year, which has definitely been very important as we've had to go through airports and through a lot of businesses that have required masks. So they've done an awesome job jumping on the side of the car this year, and I've loved working with them. and hopefully looking towards the future, we can get a few more sponsors involved in the journey, and just come on board, and then we can have a lot of fun together and drive sales while I drive a Porsche and get us up the front.
Since we're talking about you're looking for more sponsors, if anyone out there would like to support Bayley, what is your social media so people can maybe contact you about sponsoring you or follow your progress?
Yeah, so I've got a website at www.bayleyhallracing.com.au, and my Instagram and Facebook is also just Bayley Hall Racing, Bayley. And just get on board. This is such a fun category to be involved with, and it's not just whacking a sticker on the side of the car. It's me essentially working for the business that sponsored me. As a young guy, I've got a lot of people watching me, and we've got a pretty cool program next year regarding the Formula One Grand Prix. I'll be at Newcastle 500, Gold Coast 600, and the big one at the end, Bathurst 1000. So I'm definitely going to be in the spotlight next year. And what I do is I do marketing campaigns throughout the year. I do a lot of appearances, and all my social media just absolutely smashes out as much sponsorship as I can. It's a really cool journey. There's a lot of like-minded business people around the grid. So that's also one of the most important things for sponsors to see. So yeah, come on board.
And what advice would you like to give to anyone waiting to give motorsport a go?
Say just give it a crack. Like if you've got the passion and love for it, that's exactly what I had when I was young. You just got to keep at it, keep determined, and you don't let any of the lows let you down. You actually see them as opportunities to step up and opportunities to learn. So that's the biggest thing. Anytime you have a downfall, you got to assess it, look over it, and just push on. So just keeping determined, keep persevering, and you'll succeed.
Now, Bayley, one last question. Well, it's not really a question, but show the viewers your model Porsche.
I got this made earlier this year. It was a bit of a birthday present, actually. So this is my 2021 CB Gorman Porsche 911. This is the 991 Type 1. It's pretty amazing. I love it.
It looks amazing, Bayley. It's been great chatting with you tonight, Bayley. And I noticed your Instagram bio says living the dream and drive fast. And I like to say drive fast and take chances. So all the best with your racing and keep driving fast.
Thanks for taking me on the show and get my name out there and trying to teach all these young kids how to make their big steps in racing. Cheers, mate.